Welcome to the Dom.Hockey Podcast, proudly presented by Bench Rates. Created by a former hockey player, Bench Rates uses a proprietary algorithm to assign a true monetary value to a player's on-ice contributions and lets you compare that value directly to his cap hit. Bench Rates evaluates professional players across leagues worldwide, including the NHL and AHL. Learn more at benchrates.com. Also presented by McKeen's Hockey. McKeen's produces the premier NHL draft guide featuring more than 200 player reports and comprehensive rankings. They also deliver in-depth prospect coverage through their annual team-by-team rankings and their trusted hockey pool yearbook. Visit mckeens.com and subscribe for just $16.50 Canadian for 3 months. Welcome into episode 7, season 2, we'll call it, of Dom.Hockey the Podcast. Dom, we had a week off last week. Wasn't expecting as much news to happen, but in the offseason, a little bit has happened. Got some scouting in. How you been as we come back for another episode?
Great, young fella. How are you doing?
I'm doing all right. Keeping busy in the summer months, and there's always hockey to go see. So thanks, everyone, for giving some time, and let's dive right in. Like I said, some changes have been made to the front office. Evan Gold is officially out. He's got maybe a week left in the position. I think they said as of August 1st. And so we've got Alex Jimenez and Jeremy Rogalski, who are now in as assistant general managers, office reference. And then Kevin Adams is officially senior advisor. What?
Jimenez is not an AGM.
That's right. He's director of hockey ops.
Is. Yeah.
That's right. Got that one. Bonvie was the other one. Sorry about that. And then Adams is officially a senior advisor to the general manager. Obviously, when I saw these moves, I immediately wanted to get your thoughts. And I was like, no, I have to hear them fresh on the show. So we haven't really talked about this at all. I'm excited for these moves. How about you?
I am to an extent. Like, first of all, there's some confusion as to who's replacing who and who's responsible for what. So let's start with that. Gone is Scott Bradley, who's been with the organization for over 30 years. He was senior advisor to Don Sweeney, replaced by Kevin Adams. Before I get to Adams, let's say a little bit about Scott Bradley, because there's a lot of fans that I've seen say good riddance, he didn't do anything, blah, blah, blah. He wasn't good at his job. Bradley started as a amateur scout for the organization, and after 4 or 5 seasons was named director of amateur scouting. I just want to give you a list of players that were drafted by the Bruins while he was director of amateur scouting, if I can do that.
Absolutely.
Phil Kessel, Milan Lucic, Brad Marchand, Vladimir Sobotka, David Krejci, Chris Versteeg, Matt Hunwick, Mark Stewart, Patrice Bergeron, Nate Thompson, Nick Boynton, Andrew Raycroft, Joe Colbert. Obviously, not all players hit in the draft, but find me a draft under anybody who was director of amateur scouting since the turn of the century that had a better run than that.
Yeah, it's certainly going to be hard.
He was then promoted to a director of player personnel under Peter Chiarelli. They won a Stanley Cup. They went to another final. He was then promoted by Sweeney to assistant general manager. They had another final in 2019, and then became senior advisor to Don Sweeney after that. I will fully admit that, things went downhill at that point, but to say that he hasn't had a footprint on this organization is just entirely incorrect. because he has, and a really big one. In comes Kevin Adams. Um, Fans look at his Buffalo Sabre tenure and don't like the hire. Let's first of all remember that Kevin Adams started on the business side of hockey operations with the Sabres and was basically thrown into the Wolves and moved into the hockey ops department and general manager. Um, yeah, he had some rough moments. He was learning on the go. But let's not forget this team that went to the conference finals was Kevin Adams' team. He assembled it, he put it together, and there you go. So I'm hate to see Bradley go after such a long tenure, but it was time, and I'm not sure with who was out there that they could have found a better replacement than Kevin Adams. Curious what you
Yeah,
think of that.
I know a lot of people are down on the Kevin Adams addition, but like you said, this Buffalo team was mostly assembled by Kevin Adams, and we know that the issues in Buffalo ran deeper than just a name of who was in the front office. He put together the talent. Honestly, it reminds me very much of the situation in Tampa Bay when Steve Yzerman assembled a lot of the talent, and then Julian Breezewa pushed him over the edge.
Yeah.
And now the worry that I have with it is you're going to have two guys that know how to assemble some semblance of the team, but they're going to be doing it from different ways. Don Sweeney is aces when it comes to making trades. And clearly Kevin Adams is better than average when it comes to drafting. I mean, think about some of the guys that he got with their later picks. I'm not talking Owen Power first overall or, guys like that. I'm talking Zach Benson, later in that top 10. There
Mhm.
are other players that they've gotten in that first round. He's also not that bad at making his own trades. He's the one who traded away Bowen Byram. He traded for Bowen Byram rather, and traded away
Yeah.
Casey Middlestat. He traded away JJ Paterka and brought in a couple pieces that were key for this year. And as we're being asked, was he an instrumental piece in acquiring JJ Paterka, which it's very possible. I mean, that was a great trade for Buffalo because they got two pieces that can easily be key to what they needed. One of them hasn't really worked out, but you can't know that going into it, and the fact that they're looking at it different ways, like if Kevin Adams' strength is analyzing younger players and Don Sweeney can trade those younger players, they might be able to identify what they have in someone
Yeah.
sooner. Someone like a Fabian Lysell may not stick with this organization for 4 or 5 years and perpetuate in Providence. You might move off of him sooner and get something while he has a higher value. That's what I'm looking forward to. But I do worry that you might have two people who, because Kevin Adams, let's face it, wasn't really willing to pull the trigger on some deals his first few years in Buffalo. Are they going to be a little too cautious on some trades or to move off of people a little too early? How does that
Well,
dynamic work? We'll see.
he was learning at the time.
Right.
It was learning on the job for him. He didn't have any experience, so yeah, he had some hesitation.
Right.
Um,
And I'm also
but
not going to
you
crucify him for something they haven't done yet. We can
right,
only see what they do end up pulling off.
yeah. So let's move on to Evan Gold, who's
Yep.
leaving August 1st. Um, Start with the Providence general manager position because the Bruins haven't named one. And my gut feeling is Don Sweeney is going to handle both. Um,
That's what
there
I'm
is
leaning
some
towards.
precedent to that because when John Ferguson Jr. left the organization for Arizona, now Utah, Don Sweeney was GM in both Boston and Providence for 2 years until Evan Gold was given the position. Um, so I'm led to believe that because they haven't named one yet, that Don Sweeney will handle both duties for now to see if Jeremy Rogalski or Dennis Bomby can take on that role eventually. Um, as for the other parts of his duties, let's forget title here. And a lot of people think that Rogolski or Bombi are his replacement because of the assistant general manager role. But when you look at duties, they created a new position with Alex Jimenez taking over what Gold's duties were, which is, first of all, we got to say he doesn't come from a hockey background other than a short stint in the PWHL. Okay. But his legal background is exactly what Evan Gold's was: collective bargaining agreement, um, labor relations, contract negotiations, player evaluations, which were all Evan Gold's responsibilities. And that's what Jimenez is taking over. The official title is Director of Hockey Operations Collective Bargaining Agreement. It's a new title that they created. Interesting enough, is the person working under him is Zdeno Chara as the advisor.
I wonder if
hockey operations.
I wonder if that has to do with, like you said, the fact that he doesn't have the hockey background. So they've almost kind of paired Chara with him to be able to say, look, not like this is how it works in hockey. This is what players are looking for. Like he doesn't have the hockey background, so he's not going to maybe come in with a full understanding of why players ask for no movement clauses or all of that stuff. And that's something that Chara can offer him insight to from a player's perspective. And they can maybe come together on some of the deals and stuff like that. That I do think it's interesting that it's Chara, but I don't hate the pairing of those two together. If he has he's got a strong background in it, so I would fully expect. I don't want to say not to miss a beat from Evan Gold, but pretty darn good results similar to what we got. I mean, Evan Gold worked magic. We have to say that. I think
I'm fine with it. I'm fine with that move. Absolutely. I got no problem with him not coming from a hockey background because that's not what his responsibilities are going to be.
Exactly.
So
exactly.
Then we've got Jamie Langenbrunner departing, replaced by Dennis Bombi, AGM and Director of Player Personnel, which is what Langenbrunner's role was with the organization. It's hard to imagine that Bombi won't remain as director of pro scouting, because a lot of what you do in the player personnel department has to do with pro players or pro scouting. So he may still have a role in the pro scouting. And again, I'm fine with this hire. We got to remember, when Langenbrunner took over the role, he had no experience. But at least Bombi has the experience in the pro scouting department that he can bring in with him in that new role. So again, I don't really have any issues with that. What I was big on is somebody coming in from outside the organization, and they did that in bringing both Jimenez in and Kevin Adams in.
Yeah, and it'll be interesting to see what they do. You mentioned the GM in Providence. I'm curious. I do wonder. Do you think that not having a GM for Providence right now played some role in Matt Poitras not signing his qualifying offer?
No. Let's run through the rest of the list, and we'll get back to Matt Poitras, because I want to say something that will contradict all of the other stuff that's out there.
Well, I was going to say, what about them not having a coach yet?
Well, we'll get to that because Mark Dibber had some news on that too. So
All right. Well,
we
where do you
we
want to go
still got to
next?
get to um, um, Jeremy Rogalski
Oh, yeah,
getting
Rogalski, the last one.
getting an AGM role. Um, Jeremy's going to be learning on the job. It's going to be on the job training. Uh, my belief is that he will remain head of analytics as well, while he starts to dip into other aspects of being a GM. Um, they also have Josh Polkamp there in the analytics. Maybe they promote him to head of analytics, but I don't see it at this point because um, Rogalski isn't going to be heavily invested in other areas because he is learning on the job. Uh, again, Jeremy's been with the organization for some time now, probably deserved a promotion. Um, but this one is going to have to be a wait and see how he does in his role.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I'm like I said, I'm looking forward to how this new front office operates. We wanted change, we got change. May not be the change that everybody was looking for, but it's not going to be the same old, same old. You have fresh voices, some outside the
Yeah,
organization, as you mentioned, and they're all going to have some sort of influence on those final decisions. And that's what this
yeah,
team needed, a breath of fresh air. And we got it, especially at this crucial time where we're trying to influx more youth. And I just think these match. It's just a matter of how is it all going to work in the end. And we won't know unless we try to enjoy the path to get there. Was there anything else in the front office that you wanted to get to?
no, that basically covered everybody.
Okay, so the last position staff wise, I guess, to talk about is that Providence head coach position. I know a couple names have been put out there. Trent Winfield was mentioned as possibly getting the job. I think you said it was put out there by Mark Diver and probably a few others from what I saw. Do you think this is Trent Winfield's job? And do you think if it is, we're going to get more the same as some folks are asking and worried about, rightfully so? Or do you think they still go off the board and grab someone else?
No. If Mark says his sources are telling him that Whitfield's getting the job, then I believe what Mark has to say. Um, obviously, the team hasn't put anything out officially, so we can't be 100% certain.
it,
My
it's
take,
also it's also the team that said they were going to shake up the front office in a week and make announcements, and then it took them 10 days plus another weekend. So
yeah. So my take is like this on Whitfield. It's it'll be like putting a toddler in charge of teaching teenagers how to drive.
oh
That
boy.
that's the best way I can put it. Um, let me start with the negatives and then we'll go with the positives. He's
Okay.
been with the organization for 10 years now as an assistant coach. Uh, when he left as a player, he went over and played a season in Austria, came back, got an assistant job with Portland in the AHL, spent a season there, went up and spent a season as assistant coach of the Calgary Hitmen in the WHL, and then got the position in Boston under Kevin Dean. That lasted a year. Then Jay Leach took over. I believe that relationship lasted 4 years. And then Ryan Mougenel took over, and that relationship lasted 5 years. Um, the the good is that he served as an assistant under 5 different coaches throughout his coaching career. You can pick the best that each coach brings
Yep.
and try and implement that. Where I have negatives is it's more of the same when it comes to developing younger players. Because let's face it, those 3 coaches in Providence combined the players that they promoted to the NHL together doesn't match what Bruce Cassidy did before them.
Yeah. That's the
Okay.
worry.
But then again, another positive is Providence isn't going to have that many prospects this year. Their AHL regulars. You have Don's Mellis. You have a couple of goalies that fall under Mike Dunham anyway. So really, you can count their prospects on one hand. So this year can be considered on the job training for them. Okay. And then at the end of the season, when the prospects start coming in or next year, he's got that experience under his belt, and hopefully he goes on from there. Um, winning shouldn't be a prerogative for Providence, and unfortunately, it has been. um, let's face it; these coaches they want to win because they want NHL jobs.
Yeah.
Ryan Mougenel, perfect example. Um, but in Whitfield's tenure, while they've had an excellent regular season record, um, they've only made it beyond the first round once, and that was his very first year 10 years ago. So
Yeah.
we need a clear path on what do you want Providence to do? And that has to be an organizational decision, not left up to the coaches, because coaches have one thing in mind. How am I going to get to the NHL? Prove I can win.
Yeah, I do think one thing that could, small chance, very small chance it could happen, but to your point, he's worked under 5 head coaches. And being the assistant coach, you don't make the final decisions on stuff. You give your input all you want. So it small chance, but it could be different if he's one of the ones sitting there going, this is how we need to do things to get some of these players into the NHL, and he's just not being listened to. And Mougenel was essentially a roadblock for him. Again, I don't think it's a huge chance, but it's not zero. So
No,
it
it's
could
not
play
zero.
out that way, but I don't expect it to.
It's possible. I'm in total agreement with you. It's not zero. Um, but we also have to remember the role of an assistant coach is to take what is being asked of a player and helping that player succeed in that role, working one-on-one with them, doing video with them, on ice with them in practices. That's the assistant coach's role. And
Which
we
my
don't
Go
know
ahead.
what is being asked of the players.
No, but
And that's a problem.
I will say though that to your point of that, we have seen players who have gotten considerably better during their time in Providence. The argument is they haven't had the chance in the NHL, but like we've seen Matthew Poitras go down there and work and get increasingly better at his defensive game, his ability to take hits, play physically. And that could be a very strong a testament to what Trent Winfield can do when working with the players. It'll be interesting to see how that trickles down through his assistant coaches, if that was a big thing that he was working with players on. But again, some players, Frederic Brunet is another one who saw considerable improvements down in Providence, and Don Mellis, you see a guy like Riley, not Riley. Well, Riley Duran's improved quite a bit under there too. There's been progress in some of these players. It's just not been enough, and that's where I'm wondering is the assistant coaching staff doing what they're supposed to do with the players, and then it's not translating because something is happening during games, during decision-making time where it's feeding through Mougenel. Like, if Mougenel's trying to win, is the very first thing he's going to say is take one of my best playmakers in Matthew Poitras when you need someone? I know it's not entirely his decision, but he does have a say in it.
Yeah.
So, we'll have to see how it plays
I
out.
mean, it's obvious that Mougenel was there to win because we saw Patrick Brown and Riley Tufte jump over the boards before, um, Matthew Poitras or Don Slotchmelis or Fabian Lysell or Georgi Merkulov.
Mm-hmm.
It's, I mean, say what you will about Patrick Brown, but he was an excellent AHL player.
He was.
You
He
know?
was. And
So,
he earned and deserved that captaincy. He did. And he was a great
yeah,
captain down there for the players. And there was no wrong decision. I think Patrick Brown played the role that he was expected to perfectly.
yeah. So it all comes down to what do you want your AHL affiliate to be? A winning
Yeah.
hockey team, which they haven't been since what, 1999? Or do you want them to be a developmental team that they haven't been in 10, 12 years?
Almost ever, some would say. Well, we'll
But before we move on, since you brought up Matthew Poitras there, I just want to say this because a lot of people are think he's holding out for a one-way contract, and that's the holdup. And I'll tell you why it's not. Okay. If he gets a two-way contract, or if he wants a one-way contract, he wants guaranteed money. Okay.
Yep.
Whether he's in the NHL or the AHL. So let me ask you this. If Matthew Poitras is put on waivers in September, does he get claimed?
Absolutely.
Okay.
He
He gets
doesn't need the
claimed.
one way.
He gets claimed. He goes to another organization. They now have to keep him on the NHL roster. His money is guaranteed. That is
Mm-hmm.
not what he's holding out for. I just wanted to get that off.
I don't even know if it's really a quote unquote holdout right now. I think you look at this team and we're already sitting here going, they have to make a trade based on defense alone. They have, especially if they want to get Frederic Brunet in there, he's got to be a waiver eligible player this year. And I'm seeing all these mock lineups where I'm sitting here going, they have to make a move or they have to be willing to lose someone. Like everybody that I'm seeing, a lot of people are still penciling Jonathan Aspero into the top 7. That may not happen.
No. Well,
because
okay, let's talk about that defense. Okay. Um, you're right. They have to make a decision. There's too many bodies, and there are NHL teams that are still looking for defensemen. So, why haven't they moved one? My fear, and this is a legitimate fear I have, is that as an organization, they are worried too much about Charlie McAvoy being suspended for the first 6 games. And they're legitimately scared to make a deal because of that.
Yeah.
And that's my biggest fear. And they can't worry about it. How many times have I said to you, you've heard me say it a million times, you can't worry about what ifs.
Right.
You have to do what's best for the team right now.
It's also only 6 games. It's not like he's missing the first 6 weeks of the season.
So I'm not worried that it hasn't happened yet, because I honestly believe come August 3rd, when all the general managers are under one roof at the Holinka Gretzky tournament. Um, they're a week together under one roof. Believe me, there's going to be a lot of conversations between general managers. Something might not happen at that particular moment, but the groundwork could be laid at that time to do something before September.
Or conversations of revisiting something that was already talked about kick back up.
Exactly.
I got a week away at my cabin and I thought about it. Is this deal still on the table?
Exactly. So, but again, I fear that they fear that 6 game suspension to McAvoy. Now,
I
the other
also
thing too
go
is
ahead.
Pavel Zacha. They have to make a decision on Zacha. And
Real quick,
if
before we pivot to Zacha, one other thing I wanted to mention on the defense, though, is let's not forget that last year they were more than fine with leaving Henry Jokiharju on the ninth floor when they had to. So
right,
I don't think they're as worried about, if we have to go into camp with these guys and, Brunei, we have to risk waivers. I don't like that idea, but that doesn't mean the team isn't considering it going, no one's seen him at the NHL. Who wants to guarantee him an NHL spot?
yeah, I'm not pivoting to Zacha yet. I'm
Okay.
combining Zacha with one of the defensemen.
Okay, go ahead.
So because we'll get into more depths on Zacha. I don't think you can trade Zacha 1-for-1 and get an upgrade.
No.
So if they're seriously looking at moving him, or Don Sweeney's still getting calls on Pavel Zacha, it could be like he's trying to package a defenseman with him for an improvement, a much younger player, sort of like JJ Paterka, a younger player who's already had some success with more upside. And um, let's face it, when you combine Zacha's 4.75 million with, let's say, Yoki Hiru's 3 million, that's 7.7 million or whatever that a lot of teams can absorb.
It's also a contract for a player, and I'm just using him as an example. I know he's injured, but if Anaheim wanted to move off of a guy like Troy Terry, that type of player. And it's funny because you said a player who's seen success, and my brain immediately went, some people are going to go use them to go get Shane Wright. That's why you said with success.
Right. Absolutely.
Shane Wright is
So
not someone you mortgage your future for right now.
I really don't think that they're going to go into the season with 10 defensemen and have to decide who they're going to put down which to Providence. I think one of them gets moved.
I agree. I still think someone gets moved. I agree with you that the Holinski Gretzky tournament will be a breeding ground for conversations to kick back up.
Yeah.
And we might even see something wait until training camp because people get hurt in training camp.
Yeah.
And
not just in Boston, other teams, and then they become desperate.
Yep.
Right.
Yep. The other, look at a team that might not have a lot of depth on the right side, and all of a sudden they get one injury, and Henry Jokiharju is a warm body that they desperately need.
Yeah.
So, and I forget when we had the conversation, but a while back, I forget who I asked about, but the point that you were making was the value of the player that's being brought in is dependent on the team who's bringing him in. Exactly. How bad do they want him? How bad do they need him? So, let's see. Where else do you want to pivot? Unless you have anything else on the defense.
Let's keep going with Pavel Zacha.
Okay, we can do our deep dive on Zacha now.
Everybody has an opinion, and they're sticking to their opinion because a lot of people have a fear of the unknown. And I think Pavel Zacha is an unknown. Um, I I'm not smart enough to know or to think I know on what the Bruins should do with him. Obviously, a player that's entering in his 30s on an 8-year contract is going to be scary.
Yeah, well,
So
he can only get that 8-year contract for a couple more weeks.
September 15th,
Yeah, we've
we've
got
got almost two
about 2
months.
months. Yeah,
So that scares me, and I wouldn't want to do that. Um, on a 6-year deal, yeah, I would love Zacha back. Um, money, I don't know. I'd be terrified of going uh over $8 million, which the number everybody's saying he's going to get that, but I'd be terrified of it. If there's a deal where you can move um Pavel Zacha and bring in somebody like a JJ Peterka, uh, that young player who's had some good times in the NHL with upside, then I make the move. I don't know that it's the right move. I but
that you won't know it's the
it
right
might,
move until you do it and see what happens, because the moves sometimes that you don't make. I mean, how many offers has Sweeney received on Zacha that he hasn't taken, and so far those have been the right moves? As soon as they got Zacha for Eric Holla, that a season or two in, whenever he signed that extension, we already won that trade, and teams were probably
yeah,
calling on Zacha going, he does have the upside we thought he did. You guys have shown that to us. We'd like to trade for him, and they still kept him.
yeah. So, the other thing too is when is he most valuable to trade? Um, there are a
Trade
lot of
deadline.
people that think they should wait till trade deadline when if they can't get him under contract. I don't think that's when he's most valuable. Right now, you take out his 8-team no trade list. There's a lot of teams that think Pavel Zacha can make the difference to finding some success and not finding success. If you wait
Mm-hmm.
till trade deadline, you're limited to only a couple of teams that think he's the one that can put them over the top.
And that's assuming
And
that
then
those teams aren't on that 18-team trade list.
exactly my next point. So, um, and what if he doesn't have the type of season that he had last year? Then he's not as valuable at trade deadline as he is now. Right now, you have 24 teams that can trade for him, that think he could help them get to the next level. Um, you're not going to have that at trade deadline.
No.
And you're not going to have it if he doesn't have the same type of season.
Yeah. It could really affect his year, 100%. And other teams, holding on to him for now, like, yeah, you've let other teams kind of complete their business, but other teams still have business to conduct. So it's not like you can just let all the dust settle. It's not settled for the season yet, because some teams are still trying to figure out how, like, Anaheim still has Gauthier to sign. Like, we're seeing some players that are getting close to arbitration finally getting their deals in place. Jet Greaves got a solid contract from the Blue Jackets. Like, there's still other things that teams are more worried about. And I you mentioned what's Zacha going to re-sign for? I mean, right now, I think it's a little over $7 million for 5 years. That AFP Analytics does a lot of projections on contracts and stuff like that, but they get some right, they get some wrong. They're not crazy far off, but it's not that hard to look at this situation and say he's going to get somewhere between $6 and $8 million. Throw a number at the wall. Well, what's the term and stuff like that? when he signs the deal is going to be crucial to what that deal looks like. If he signs it today, he can get that 8 years. If he signs it in 9 weeks, he can't get that. He can only get at max 7 years. If he wants to take it to free agency, it's only a 6-year deal. That's leaving money on the table for him in the long run. However, we are seeing what some of these guys are signing for right now. He may want to do a 3-year contract. You know, like we're seeing some of these guys, Bedard just signed for 5 years instead of an 8-year deal with Chicago. You know, so like the players have different wants and depends on what Zacha wants for his security. He likes Boston, which bodes well for us. He may want to stay, but what does that look like? Does staying here mean an 8-year contract at 7.5? I don't really want to do that contract, especially with a no move clause, because that's probably what he would want.
And, you know, as much as there are teams looking for defensemen, there are teams still looking for centers. Especially one that can play multiple positions. So the opportunity is there. I'm not including Pavel Zacha in, let's say, a trade for Shane Wright.
Oh, God, no.
Shane Wright is rumored to be available. He wants out, and the team wants to move him out. But we don't hear a lot about it. When we do, he's always linked to Boston. And I'll tell you why I have no interest in Shane Wright. You've got, first of all, you got Fraser Minton. Forget Zacha. Let's just leave Zacha out of the equation right now.
Yeah.
You've got Fraser Minton. You've got James Higgins. You've got Dean Letourneau. You've got Matt Poitras, if you ultimately make a decision on him. Okay. Right there, you've got 4 centers within a year, the next year, that you've got to open up room for.
And also,
okay.
don't forget, Murat Hustadinov plays center too.
Yeah, but you bring a Shane Wright in, where does he fit in? Look, I'm a firm believer, and I've been saying this for a long time now, that Dean Letourneau has top potential. He can be a first-line center if he reaches his potential. So can James Higgins. So if they're both first-liners, already you're moving, unless you want to run them 1-2, then you've got Fraser Minton as 3. You're moving one of them to the wing.
Yeah.
Let's not to mention the albatross of Elias Lindholm. Like, where does Shane Wright fit in? I keep seeing this connection to Bob. I don't want him. He just doesn't fit what the future holds for this. Maybe right now, today, maybe, but teams don't think about right now. They're thinking 1 years ahead, even 3 years. How is he going to fit in?
Yeah, but that's in conjunction with how does it help right now? Like, does it help right now? Yes, maybe. Like you said, does that help 2-3 years from now? No, it doesn't. So you take that option off the table at that point. Like, if the only reason why a Shane Wright deal would make any sense at all is if you're able to use that deal to dump an Elias Lindholm-esque contract. And he has the no move clause. He's not waiving it to go to Seattle. So that's off the table. If you could do that, then you have a conversation to have. But it doesn't really make any sense for him to want to do it unless he just wants out of the city. And he likes it here so far. So you got to put him in a position where he can have playoff success. And that's not going to be in Seattle right now.
Yeah. Exactly.
So
So I don't know what the right play is.
right now, I don't think it's Shane Wright, and I don't think you're going to be able. Like we talked a little bit about moving Elias Lindholm in like an Elias Pettersson deal, but again, now as you mentioned, all those centers, does an Elias Pettersson acquisition really make all the sense in the world? Not really. But
Yeah,
we
now
would have to see
Pedersen
how
is
that
saying
would
he
play
doesn't
out.
want to move.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
Pedersen is saying now he doesn't want to move.
yeah, we'll see how that ends up playing out. But some of it too is some of these teams are going to bounce back. They've made other moves, and they want to see how that's going to work for them. So it's not just it's that easy. I mean, we've had the conversation before. Making trades in this league can be very, very hard.
Exactly.
And we were talking a little bit about it with Pavel Zacha, but you also have to, you mentioned thinking a year or two and a couple steps ahead. You've got to think about so far where things have been going for some of these young players. Like I'm seeing people try to project Fraser Minton for a 6-year, $6 million AAV contract. Good luck with that. If you're trying to get him for 6 years, right now, you sign that deal, it's a 3-year contract at the longest.
Exactly.
So if you want to lock up Fraser Minton for 8 years and take him till he's 30, that right there is probably pushing 13 to 14 million.
Oh, I don't know that it would go that high. No.
Maybe 12. If you're buying that many years of unrestricted free agency, if you're taking him to age 30 with an 8-year contract, I could see it getting that high. Because that's 7 years of the cap going up that he can't get back.
I don't think so. Not for a Fraser Minton. I don't think so.
I mean, I guess that depends on what his agent has him projecting out as far as as far as his high end. But I mean, you're still talking double digits.
Well, yeah, but I don't think it'd be that high. No.
But even at 10, do you want to mark him on the books next year for 10 right now?
No.
Exactly. No. But you're not getting him 6 for 6.
No, you're not. You might get 3 for 6, and that I would be fine with because he's still an RFA when it comes.
Sign that deal right now. That's where I'm at with that one. Sign that one right now. And then Marat Husnudinov, he's going to need a new contract. And then you also will have to replace Mittelstadt, Zacha, Corrali, and Esimont, which you hope to have internal options for some of them. But, it's...
Esimont doesn't need replacing.
No.
Corrali doesn't need replacing.
Internal replacements right there.
They should be gone right now. That's my opinion. Matt Poitras is right there waiting for an NHL spot, and we're playing a 34-year-old Sean Corrali? Come on.
And Poitras looked real good between Kastelik and Jeannot last year. So I'd love to see that line get a little bit of a run. I see a lot of
people saying, a lot of people are saying you need Sean Corrali for the penalty kill. For what? One of the worst penalty kills in the league last season? He was part of that.
Yeah. Also, he's only on... Okay, so you only want him on the ice for 4 minutes a game? Maybe let's say maybe 6 or 8 when you're down a man because you take 4 penalties in a game. How about you stop taking the penalties and don't need to kill off as many?
Look, we can talk about Pavel Zacha trade. We can talk about moving a defenseman. But the first person that needs to be gone is Sean Corrali because that spot should be going to somebody else.
Actually, I think the first name that should be gone is Michael Esimont. At least Sean Corrali was in the lineup for all 82 games last year.
But it's okay to have Sean Eastmont sitting on the ninth floor.
Yeah, and Eastmont, let's face it, is more likely to get through waivers than not.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, either way, they both shouldn't be here. What else? I know some folks are wondering if you're going to make it down for the Hlinka Gretzky Cup. I'm just looking through some of the questions that we've got, and
I won't be there because it's in Edmonton and I have the grandkids to worry about, so I can't take a week off. But I'll be having an article coming out with all the rosters, players to keep an eye on, all that type of stuff. Um, my only regret is um, no, Moore and Simpson won't be playing in the. It's only draft eligible players born in 2009. Um, no, they won't be part of the Holinka. This is a pre-draft uh thing. So this is players you're watching for next year's draft, and there's a lot of good ones. My only regret is that Russia uh um won't be taking part in this because there's legitimately 6 Russians playing in the MHL that could go in the first round next year. And last year there was only one. There was only 16 Russians taken altogether, and the Bruins took 2 of them. So um, it's a strong Russian draft with. Um, so that's my only regret. But there's a lot of good young players. It's going to be forward heavy at the top of the first round, with the exception of DuPont. Um, it's going to be defense heavy at the end of the first round. So I'm looking forward to watching this and getting a head start on next year's draft.
yeah, I'll be doing what I can to try to catch some of it myself, depending on where they're airing it down here. I might have to do some serious online searching.
I can tell you, NHL Network will carry Team USA's games through the preliminary round, and once they get to the knockout stage, they'll be carrying every game in the US. In Canada, TSN will have every single game.
I'll have to
I
see.
have I know who's carrying it for overseas if there are people watching for overseas, but unfortunately I don't have the list in front of me. I will be putting an article out and you'll find that there once the rosters are completed.
Yeah, I'm sure we'll have plenty of info on that. I did see Gary's question about Poitras making this team, which we touched on a little bit, and I do think to your point of him needing to clear waivers, I don't want to say that guarantees him a spot on the team, but the only way I don't see him in Boston is if he's traded.
Exactly. Or placed on waivers and claimed.
Yeah.
He absolutely has to make this roster. And absolutely should.
Yeah.
You could argue he should have been on the roster last year.
And then I know we're approaching the hour mark, but I do like Nitro's question here, asking about how it seems like they always have a surplus of 7, 8, 9 defensemen, 10, 11, 12 forwards. Why does the front office value them so much? And it's year over year over year. And I figured this was a good spot because we've talked a lot about the Zachas and the trading of a defenseman because they have so many. At least in my opinion, having that many defensemen right now is an advantage because we as we mentioned, you don't know who's going to get hurt in training camp, if anyone. You don't know if you're going to need someone to I don't even think you have just 9. I think you could probably go 11 deep right now. Not that they're all going to be fantastic, but you have 11 deep as far as bodies that you could play based on last year. It gives you some pieces that you can move as well.
Yeah, you always need depth, especially at defense, because let's face it, there's only 6 of them on the ice at any one time.
Mm-hmm.
What are the cheapest ones to get? are 7, 8, 9 defensemen that can fill in for a couple of games here, a couple of games there. You're not going to have a three number one defensemen on your roster because you simply can't afford it. So, uh, when you're going for depth, you're looking for those 7, 8, 9 defensemen, 10, 11, 12, 13 forward types that can fill in a pinch. And every team does that, not just Boston.
Yeah, every team is going to do that. And it's those depth players like Jonathan Aspero is a great seventh defenseman. He should not be on your top pairing. If he's on your top pairing, we at the peak of what your team is what we had last year. He's not a
Exactly.
top pairing guy. Great guy, very deserving of an NHL spot, but that's where you want him if you're a cup contending team, is your 7-8 spot.
I just want to touch on that comment from Court there. So Sportsnet Plus in Canada has raised their rates.
Again.
We knew it was coming. There's, I see comments like, well, they had to do it because the NHL has $18 million contracts now. And money does not go to the NHL. The NHL, Sportsnet has already paid their money for that for what, the next 8 years or whatever their deal is worth. None of that money goes to the NHL. So that's number one. Number two, Sportsnet Plus isn't the same as NHL Center Ice or whatever it used to be called back in the day, because it isn't just hockey. You got your baseball, you got your basketball. It's not just one-stop shopping for just hockey. It's every sport. Um, so that's what you're paying. Um, and yeah, it has gone up massively, Court. I only use it for hockey. I don't watch baseball. I don't watch basketball. I don't watch curling or any of those things that they have on there. Um, so I don't know what I'm going to do. I'm probably going to bite the bullet and pay it, and maybe become a fan of baseball or something else. But it's not just for hockey, it's for every sport. Yeah, it's a massive increase, but it is what it is.
Yeah, it's I use my ESPN Plus the same way you use your Sportsnet Plus for just hockey,
Yeah.
but same Dom dot only hockey. From
What's
Cord.
that? Oh.
Same Dom dot only hockey.
Oh,
Changing your website, I
okay.
guess.
Yeah.
It's a bummer, but it's not because of these contracts. That money's
Yeah.
already dealt with,
Yeah.
So let's see. Strong Russian draft after the Bruins get into Russians. Yeah, I mean, I'll be interested to see how they continue to adapt going forward. Dom, we are just shy of the hour mark. Other than the Hlinka Gretzky tournament, which we really didn't dive too much into, but obviously you previewed it for us. Was there anything else that you really wanted to get into today?
Yeah, I just want to say I have an interesting weekend because um, there's a reunion of arguably the greatest hockey team ever put together, um, for their respective level of hockey. People think it's the Montreal Canadiens, but it's not. Um, it's a junior B team here in my hometown, the Stratford Culletons, who in 85, 86 had a record of 36, 3-1,
Damn.
and then went 20-1 in the playoffs. Had 9 players from that squad um, go on to receive NCAA Division I scholarships, and 7 of them were drafted into the NHL. And people knock junior B hockey. Um, in a lot of places, like here in Stratford, it's even better than junior A. Um, to me, that's been the most successful hockey team ever assembled for their respective levels of hockey. Um, Today at 11 o'clock, they start um, a round of golf. I'll be there with them, even though my shoulder doesn't allow me to swing like I'd like to. Um, so yeah, that's my interesting take of the day. Um,
Nice.
I can't give you any Dom stories about them because I was still young at the time, so I probably could have played on that team.
They didn't block you on Twitter or anything?
Oh no, no, no. They actually like me.
All
Oh,
right.
I never told you. I got unblocked by the Windsor Spitfires.
Oh, that's
Yeah,
just don't
so
make them
there's
block you again.
yeah, so
Well, how long ago did that happen?
I just noticed the other day when they liked one of my tweets. So I thought I don't know when it happened.
Probably when your account got hacked.
Yeah, well, you
It was them.
probably.
It was them. So, anyways, we'll get off the rails if we stay on here for too long. So we're at the hour mark. I got nothing else. I'm thoroughly excited for the upcoming season. I think Bees fans should be. Again, not to sit here and say be excited for a Stanley Cup, but right now enjoy the process of trying to become competitive for another one. They're making changes that we've been asking for, and just try and enjoy the ride as you hope that they come to fruition the way they should. That's really all I've got. Dom, anything to add before we
Yeah.
go?
No, I just want to ask anybody who's up watching on YouTube if they could give us a like or subscribe to help us out. That would be greatly appreciated.
It would be. Thank you so much for adding that in. And my last thought is go Bees.
Go Trent Whitfield.
Welcome to the Dom.Hockey Podcast, proudly presented by Bench Rates. Created by a former hockey player, Bench Rates uses a proprietary algorithm to assign a true monetary value to a player's on-ice contributions and lets you compare that value directly to his cap hit. Bench Rates evaluates professional players across leagues worldwide, including the NHL and AHL. Learn more at benchrates.com. Also presented by McKeen's Hockey. McKeen's produces the premier NHL draft guide featuring more than 200 player reports and comprehensive rankings. They also deliver in-depth prospect coverage through their annual team-by-team rankings and their trusted hockey pool yearbook. Visit mckeens.com and